for everybody. And now the race is really who can push the technology in an economic way to turn it into profitable space businesses for each of the companies and each of the countries involved. And India is in a really strong, leveraged position to do that.
Now the race is really who can push the technology in an economic way to turn it into profitable space businesses. For each of the companies and each of the countries involved in India is in a really strong leveraged position to do that. At exactly 6:20 Greenwich Mean Time on Friday, the 1st of September 2023, the PSLV rocket took off from a launch pad at the Aditya-L1 Space Center in Sriharikota, carrying the Aditya-L1 craft. The sight of this rocket powering its way through the clouds with brute force was enough entertainment for the thousands of locals who were camped at a makeshift viewing gallery near the launch site. But beyond the four corners of India, the significance of this groundbreaking achievement means that the South Asian country is now seen as an emerging force in space. In today's video, we'll tell you everything you need to know about this historic launch and why India could become a serious competitor in the space race within the next few years. For some time now, India has been making significant statements on the other side of the Kármán line. And without a shadow of doubt, the biggest one of these statements so far is the recent launch of the Aditya-L1, a coronagraphy spacecraft that's headed for an historic meeting with our closest star, the Sun. Named after Surya, the Hindu god of the sun, this rocket is expected to travel up to 1.5 million kilometers before it arrives at its final destination. For context, this is equivalent to around 1% of the entire distance between our blue planet and the Sun. According to the scientists at the Indian Space Research Agency, ISRO, the Aditya-L1 is headed for the L1 or Lagrange point 1. The European Space Agency describes this spot as a region in space where the gravitational forces of two large objects, like the Sun and the Earth, cancel each other out. This cosmic phenomenon allows a spacecraft to drift around seamlessly. In this case, it will enable the Aditya-L1 to efficiently orbit the Sun at the same rate as the Earth. This exceptional project is India's first ever observation mission to the Sun and one of the most iconic events in the country's space history. And as expected, it generated widespread interest across India and even beyond. The event was broadcasted on national TV and streamed live on the ISRO YouTube channel. So far, the streamed video has garnered 7 million views on YouTube at the time of making this video. After 1 hour and 4 minutes of traveling in space, the Indian Space Research Agency declared the mission was successful. Aditya-L1 mission accomplished. Handing over to Mission Director, we have confirmation of Aditya-L1 separation. The mission has been accomplished. However, ISRO Chief Sridhara Panikar Somanath confirmed that the Aditya-L1 still has a long way to travel before it arrives at its final destination.
After some Earth maneuvers, it will start its journey to the L1 point, a very long journey of almost 125 days.
After some Earth maneuvers, it will start its journey to the L1 point. A very long journey of almost 135 days. So let us wish all the very best to Aditya. Once it arrives at the L1, this powerful craft will be calibrated remotely before proceeding to start its primary assignment, which is to gather important information about solar activities and send useful data back to scientists on Earth. Official sources at the Indian space research industry confirmed that the Aditya-L1 is equipped with at least 7 scientific instruments, which will enable it to observe and study several parts of our Sun, including the solar corona, the photosphere, and the chromosphere. Essentially, the solar corona is the outermost layer of the Sun. The photosphere is the surface that we see from Earth, while the chromophore is a thin layer of plasma that exists between the photosphere and the corona. In addition, the Aditya-L1 will also study things like coronal mass ejections, solar wind, and near-space weather in real time. It's important that we have ample and timely information about these activities because it allows us to plan and take precautions against impending adverse solar events. As you would imagine, getting this project up and running is no easy feat, and while official ISRO sources haven't said how much is the project's true cost, some credible sources in the Indian press have pegged it at 3.78 billion rupees, which at the time of making this video is equivalent to $46 million. Interestingly, this isn't the first time a country would attempt to study the details of the Sun. In fact, countries have been launching missions to the Sun as far back as the 1980s. In 1981 precisely, Japan became the first country to launch a mission to study solar flares. The U.S. Space Agency, NASA, and the European Space Agency, ESA, joined the party sometime in the 1990s, and since then, they've remained committed to studying the intricate details of everything that goes on inside our sun. More recently, in February 2020, NASA and the ESA collaborated to launch a solar orbiter. And 1 year later, NASA launched the Parker Solar Probe, which ultimately became the first solar probe to fly through the corona of the sun. If everything goes as planned, India will join this exclusive list of countries that have launched solar probes. But it's important to note that the Aditya-L1 isn't just a regular solar probe. According to reports, the spacecraft is equipped with sophisticated scientific tools that will enable it to collect data that are currently unavailable to any other solar probe in the world. In addition, Somak Ray Chaudhary, one of the scientists involved in the development of the craft, said the Aditya-L1 mission is capable of having the Big Bang effect on our knowledge of the sun. In other words, the famous Indian astrophysicist is betting on the Aditya-L1 mission to perform beyond expectation. While the Aditya-L1 might be India's biggest achievement in space yet, the country is actively working on other exciting space projects as well. Currently, India has over 50 satellites in space performing a range of important functions. And not too long ago, the Asian country successfully landed the Chandrayaan-3 on the lunar South Pole. The landing, which took place on the 3rd of August 2023, makes India the fourth country to successfully complete a soft landing on the moon after the US, Russia, and China. Critically, the successful landing of the Chandrayaan-3 craft means India is the first country to land a probe on the rugged surface of the lunar South Pole. Expectedly, plenty of reactions have trailed the successful landing of this spacecraft, beginning from ISRO top boss Srihara Panikkar Somanath, who declared with great pride that India is now on the moon. The country's Prime Minister Narendra Modi was away in South Africa attending the BRICS summit during the launch, but he was just as excited as the scientists and supporters who witnessed the liftoff. This moment is unforgettable. It is phenomenal. This is a victory cry of a new India, Modi said while waving an Indian. In a congratulatory post on X, the micro-social media platform formerly known as Twitter, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson hailed India and the ISRO for the success of the mission. And congratulations to India on being the fourth country to successfully soft land a spacecraft on the moon. We're glad to be your partner on this mission. Russian President Vladimir Putin also took time out to send a congratulatory message to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the people of India. This is a big step forward in space exploration, and of course, a testament to the impressive progress made by India in the field of science and technology, Putin said on the Kremlin's official website. The ISRO shared footage of the shadow and the legs of the Pragyan rover as it roams across the lunar surface. This advanced probe carried out experiments on the lunar rocks, soils, and craters over the course of one lunar day, which is equivalent to 14 Earth days. During the experiment, the rover confirmed the presence of sulfur and other elements on the lunar South Pole. Following the success of the first experiment, the rover and its lander have now been into safe mode. They'll remain idle until the 22nd of September 2023, when they'll be turned on for another round of experiments. In total, the moon landing mission cost India around 6.15 billion rupees, which is roughly equivalent to $75 billion. While this might sound like an extravagant sum, it's actually one of the most financially efficient space projects ever, especially compared to other projects that we've seen in recent times. The price of the Chandrayaan-3 mission is cheaper than the filming cost of some space-themed Hollywood blockbuster movies like Interstellar and The Martian, which cost $165 and $108 million, respectively. Interestingly, it is also cheaper than other lunar rovers. For instance, Russia's Luna 25 rover, which attempted to land on the south pole of the moon, cost around $200 million. And despite the hefty budget expended on the Luna 25 rover, the spacecraft failed to complete its mission as it lost control and crashed into the lunar surface. This makes India's Chandrayaan-3 mission even more impressive because not only is it cheaper than the Luna 25 mission, it was also able to navigate the rugged terrain around the moon's orbit to make a successful landing on the lunar surface. The success of India's solar observation and moon landing missions highlights India's intention to become a global superpower in space. And if the South Asian country continues on this trajectory, it is only a matter of time until it becomes a real contender in the space race.